Welcome to the Wise Doula Podcast. This is a place for informative, uplifting, and educational conversations. Here we will discuss everything related to parenting, from conception to pregnancy, birth, and beyond. You are amongst friends here, so grab your favorite drink, make sure it's not caffeinated if you are expecting, and come on inside. Welcome to the Wise Doula Podcast. If you are here, I am so happy to have you. Yes, this is a brand new podcast, and I am sure you are eagerly waiting for me to tell you more about it. So let's get started. This is the Wise Doula Podcast. You might be wondering, why is it called the Wise Doula Podcast? Let me get to that first. It is wise because it combines the collective wisdom of all of you, my listeners. And it is also wise because we come from the wisdom of the women before us that took care of other women during birth since the beginning of history. And that is indeed where the word doula comes from ancient Greece. But we'll get to that in another episode. So that is the reason I decided to call it the Wise Doula Podcast. Now, who is this podcast for, right? This podcast is for you if you are a parent, a grandparent, or a family thinking about pregnancy, already pregnant, going through postpartum, or in the process of planning for a baby. It is also a podcast open to grandparents and other family members that want to learn more about birth and postpartum. I also welcome my fellow doulas and birth workers into this space. This is talking about birth and postpartum with my flavor, Marta's flavor. So I guess after you listen to a few episodes, you will decide if this is a particular flavor of ice cream you like. If it's a flavor of ice cream that you don't like too much, that's okay. No hard feelings. But I would hope if you stick around, you enjoy the content that I put out week after week. So you are absolutely welcome here. Like I said, if you're planning for a baby, if you're already pregnant, if you're preparing for postpartum, if you are missing your baby because you didn't get to hold them in your arms at the end of the 9 months, or if all your babies have grown, but you have an interest in birth, pregnancy, and you want to learn more, you are all welcome here. Let me tell you about the atmosphere of this podcast, okay? Because that's very important to me. All the years I spent as a classroom teacher, creating the environment in the room to go with the unit of study we were doing was very important. Creating an ambience that was conducive to learning, okay? And for example, when we were studying the human body, we transformed our dramatic play area into a little hospital where the kids got to play being doctors and nurses. And so we created an atmosphere that was conducive to learning, that connected with the learning that was happening. And that's exactly what I wanted to happen here. Of course, I'm not going to get to decorate for you. I'm not going to get to create a little hospital or a little grocery store for you, right? It would be ideal, right? If I could create a pretend labor and delivery room and you could practice the steps. I can't do that. All I get to do is communicate with you and create that ambience and that atmosphere with my words. And so I want you to imagine the atmosphere for this podcast. It's going to be very relaxed and very chilled. I want you to imagine that we are sitting in an outdoor cafe in Spain. That's where I'm from. We are sitting in an outdoor cafe. It's the end of summer. The weather is beautiful, sunny, breezy, warm, not overly hot. And we are chilling in this outdoor cafe. We have our non-alcoholic drinks, maybe a few tapas. Okay? And we are just having a super relaxed conversation. I invite you to close your eyes for 2 minutes and imagine that in your mind, that we are sitting in this cafe with the breeze blowing around us, very relaxed, very chilled. Nobody's rushing us. And we are opening the floor for a relaxed, calm, inviting conversation about pregnancy, birth, postpartum, lactation, and mental emotional health. Those are all the topics we're going to talk about, not all at once, of course. And nobody's rushing us. Nobody's bringing us the bills, so we vacate the table. No, no, no. There are plenty of empty tables around us. And so it's a very intimate conversation. And we are just spending the time together. And I'm sitting there with you, and you can ask me anything you need to ask me about birth, pregnancy, fertility, about the whole parenting journey. And I'm your friend. I'm your doula. I'm there for you. A lot of times people ask me, what exactly does a doula do? What? I can tell you we do many, many things, and I'm going to go over that in another episode, so don't you worry. And we wear a lot of big hats. But I can tell you this doula, what you get with this doula is you get mom, aunt, and older sister all rolled into one. So I'm going to be all of those things, but above all, I'm going to be your doula and provide that non-judgmental support, information, comfort, nurturing. That's what you get when you come to my podcast, okay? And you get a super relaxed conversation. I am a very joyful person. I like to enjoy life. I like to have amazing conversations with my friends, and why not with my clients? Because not everything in life needs to be serious. There is time for serious, and there is time for chilled and relaxed. So that's what you are getting with this podcast. So, like I said, we're going to utilize these episodes to talk about different subjects. And let me tell you, my listeners, I will not shy away from subjects that are a little difficult or a little intense, or, that might maybe sensitive for you. And I will let you know. But in this podcast, we will talk about all aspects of birth and pregnancy. We will talk about bereavement. We will talk about loss. Okay. And I will always let you know when we're going to talk about that. And I encourage you to always take good care of yourself. And if you know that there is a topic that we're going to discuss that it's a potential trigger for you, or brings up difficult memories for you, you always have the option of skipping that part of the episode. Okay. So you are the most important thing. Always take care of yourself. But if you are here, again, you are here for not just for a doula podcast. There are many doula podcasts, but you are here for Marta's flavor of doula podcast. Okay. Open, honest conversations with you. I know it's a bit of a monologue, but I hope we're going to get to interact through the comments and through social media. Okay. So to have those open, honest conversations where we discuss anything and everything related to your parenting journey, starting from fertility, continuing with pregnancy, birth, perinatal loss, if it has happened to you, rainbow pregnancy, postpartum, lactation, emotional health, etc. Because I firmly believe that all of these things need to come together for you to have a positive and empowered birth experience. The more information and the more knowledge that you gain, the better prepared you are. And since this is a very relaxed one-on-one chat. You can ask anything. Okay? If I go back to my own pregnancy, or actually to the years before I got pregnant, if I can describe to you what I felt, it was fear. Now, I'm not going to say that everybody feels fear around pregnancy, but it does exist. It does happen. And all I remember were all the horror stories that everybody told me about pregnancy and birth, and all the things that could go terribly wrong. And, all kinds of like battle stories that people told me. And so I was approaching the possibility of being pregnant with fear, with uncertainty, with a lot of doubt. And as I got pregnant, that fear was still lingering. What's going on? Will everything be okay? Will I pass all the tests okay? Will my baby be okay? In my case, unfortunately, my husband and I did experience perinatal loss. I say unfortunately because, of course, we wish our baby was here. But at the same time, our baby is the reason I am a doula today. So her life was and continues to be a blessing. But my biggest thing is I want to make sure that other families don't feel alone in this process. I want to make sure other families don't feel so afraid. If they are afraid, they have a place where they can come and sit and enjoy a cup of tea and have 30, 45 minutes of a peaceful conversation and reassurance. And I am available to you on the podcast. I am available to you on social media. So please know that you can always reach out. Okay. My biggest word is community. My biggest mission for this podcast is to build community with all of you out there that are thinking about birth, pregnancy and birth, or are interested in pregnancy and birth, that are planning for it or already had your baby. I want to be there for you, okay? I want to be there for you, and I want to encourage, I want to nurture, and I want to support you. So that is my goal number one, creating community, nurturing, and supporting you. Now, by this point, you're probably thinking, this is all fine and dandy, but I would like to know more about the person behind the podcast. Well, I'll be honored to tell you about the person behind the podcast. So my name is Marta Arandia. I am originally from Spain. I came to the US to work as a bilingual teacher, which I did for 21 years of my life. Very fulfilling. I love teaching. And honestly, I forgot to tell you, I taught preschoolers and kindergarten, so mostly 3 and 4 year olds and then 5s. And it was very interesting because when I was a teacher, for the first 5 years of my teaching in the US, my program had a home visit component. So we went on home visits on Fridays and we visited our students. And I had very young families that were having babies. And when we visited the families, we not only visited the preschooler, but we also talked to the family. How is the baby doing? How is the pregnancy going? And so years before I knew what a doula was, I was already sort of planting those seeds for doula work in the future. Incredible, right? But the classroom was very fulfilling to me. I was a bilingual teacher, like I said, for a total of 21 years. The classroom was super fulfilling. I loved it. But my life really changed when in 2015, I experienced both pregnancy and saying goodbye to our baby too soon. Okay. We didn't get to hold her in our arms at 9 months. That didn't happen because she passed away before that. When that happened, my perfect little plan of being a teacher the rest of my life, retiring from teaching, it started to crumble a little bit. Not crumble in the sense that it wasn't meaningful, it was still meaningful, but crumble in the sense that I started to feel I wanted more. And the overpowering feeling during the time that I was pregnant and then, had to say goodbye to our baby, and we were grieving and going through bereavement. The overpowering feeling throughout that time was, how do I support other families? So when they're going through this, they don't feel alone, they don't feel broken, they don't feel defective, because I felt that way. And how do I make sure that they are supported and that I'm there for them? So I started to develop this desire to help other families. And I was helping families in the classroom, don't take me wrong, but more and more, the home visits slowly disappeared over the years, and it became more and more classroom, classroom, classroom. So the contact with the parents, although was there, was not as extensive. And I started thinking, how do you help other families going through this? And then this website that I was using to support myself during my grieving and my husband, called stillbirthday.com, which I will put in the comments so you can check it out. I started seeing they had materials for pregnancy loss, miscarriage, etc. And they also had a doula training program. And I was like, a doula training program, okay. So, okay, that sounds kind of cool. But my brain was going, hey, it's okay. You're a teacher. So just stay a teacher. That's your mission. That's what you're doing. Let's keep doing that. And so I kind of kept it on the side a little bit. And I thought, maybe later. But that desire to help families kept coming back stronger, stronger, like a fireplace, that the flames are getting bigger and bigger and bigger. If you're like fanning the fire, right? The flames are getting bigger. And I thought, there's no way I can ignore this. So in 2018, I started training and became a doula. Jess originally started working with bereavement and then birth as well. And little by little, I developed a passion for the postpartum period, for working with postpartum, traditional postpartum, lactation, childbirth education. So yeah, I added more and more blocks to my little castle, and it kept growing. So here we are today. The podcast has been in the making for a while, but I felt really strongly that I really wanted to share what I have learned with all of you. And I really wanted to be a joyful, nurturing, comfortable presence online. There's a lot of negativity online nowadays. There is a lot of information flying around. It can get really overwhelming to know what to read, what not to read, what to look at, what not to look at. It can be hard to sort of like separate the important stuff from the fluff. And also considering that pregnancy and everything that surrounds motherhood, fatherhood, parenthood, it's very raw and vulnerable. It's very delicate. Okay. I really wanted to be in that space and create a bridge between you, my listener, and all that knowledge that is out there. And like I said, open up the door, open up the window. Actually, not the window. I don't want you climbing through the window. Open up the door for you to come in and spend time in a nice little chat with me. And of course, my purpose is that this would be educational, that it will inform, that it will help. But like I told you earlier, my biggest goal is that creation of community, is that you feel that when you come to my podcast, you can set your worries and all the noise of the day outside the door, And you can come sit at that table that we talked about in that outdoor patio in Spain. Just get to chill with me and talk about everything related to birth. So if that sounds like the kind of place where you want to be every week, I think you are at the right spot. And I look forward to all the conversations we are going to have together. And I also look forward to being a partner, a companion in your parenting journey. From my teacher, mother, and doula heart to yours, let's embark on this journey. I really can't wait. I hope you're excited too. See you next week. Hey, you have listened to the Wise Doula Podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everything we discussed today was meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not substitute the advice of your medical provider. Would you do us a favor? Follow me on Instagram at LovingBellyDoula. Also, let me know what other topics you would like to see me discuss in this podcast. And please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms. Thank you so much. I will see you next week.